Today we're going to make a crosscut sled for my table saw. You can see I have this cheaper Ryobi saw, and it works okay. I'll upgrade eventually, but for now it does the trick. The biggest reason I need one is my miter saw is not a sliding miter saw, so I'm kind of limited in the length of the cuts I can make. So for me, that's the most important thing. And then also, I want the stop. The stop is what is going to help me cut the exact same length and boards every single time. I'm making a box for my buddy, and on the miter saw, I don't have a track on that, so you know, each cut is like a 1/16 of an inch off, even if you put the boards up perfect. So it's time for a crosscut sled, and I'm gonna show you one challenge that I have with this cheap saw. So one of the challenges is a single groove right here. For a while, I didn't think I'd be able to build one because I saw everybody making them with two, but I do see some people that use either one of their tracks, or in some rare cases like mine, they just have single groove, and it seems to work just fine as long as you get this piece in here really well and sliding well. So that's what I'm going to do, and I want it pretty long, so it's going to be about like that. But I'll show you one more challenge. These pieces right here, get a little closer. You can see they're not flat. So I'm gonna grind that off to be even, and then we'll build this crosscut sled and see how it goes. So let's get after it.
Here I'm just cutting down the lengths that I want for my fence, and then I'm gonna square them up. I don't have a jointer, so this is the method that I use, which works okay. So just squaring these boards up and go from there. Now I got to glue these two together, and I saw this pretty good method from 3x3 Customs where she puts a level on the whole fence to keep it super straight. So I like that idea, so I ended up using it. And so shout out to her. She has a fantastic channel, by the way. You should check it out. So for making the little sliding rail, I just used this tool and put it in there exactly even, and then marked it. Cut right on the line, and it's gonna work just fine. So once I got the strip cut down and I got my little groove routed, you can see that it fits pretty well in here. And I did grind these off. I didn't have a video of that, my camera died, but the grinding went just fine. So now that it fits pretty good, it is a little bit high, and that was on purpose. In hindsight, I should have probably just tried to cut it perfect, but I left it a little high on purpose because my idea was to basically just sand it all down. So that was the method that I went with. So I put this little tape on each side, and the idea was to, when I ran into the tape, it would be pretty flat. Now, this was not a very good method, mainly being because my little strip is red oak, and red oak is incredibly hard. So even sanding with 80 grit, it took forever. Just a little light sand on the board to knock off the rough edges.
All right, I got this all sanded, and this thing fits perfect. Slides really well in there. Kind of tight, but that's how I want it. So I know that everybody basically does this with a little super glue and does this a lot better, but I don't expect to keep this sled very long because I'm already saving for a better table saw. So this is just going to be temporary, but and a little bit of practice. So I know this is not the best way. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue. And then I will come back and clean this up later. Right now, this is just basically, and I'll clean up whatever mess I make, I know. I'll scrape it all off. Not so worried about it, because I just want to kind of get this stuck to it, because I'm going to come back and put some screws from the underneath recessed a little bit after this is dried up and in place well enough. So again, for now, doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just gonna line this up right here with this end. And I'm gonna square this my own way, which is not gonna be perfect later, but I have an idea on that, and I'll show you. I'm basically gonna square it up with the fence, put the fence on. And I don't think this is a very good way to do it, but again, temporary practice. It's all good. It's some scrap wood. And this was a piece of red oak that I had left over from a project. Another thing that I would not normally use on this fence. On this piece. So, got it on. I'm gonna put some weight on there. Actually, I want to show you guys something. Actually, right after that video, I realized that it wasn't on there because it wasn't on there super tight. So I found a little piece of oak that I had trimmed off of something else earlier. I don't remember what. It's in my little scrap pile, but now you can see it's a lot tighter. So I put that little piece of shim in there basically, and then I put the weight back on.
Just removing the weights, then I'm gonna secure this down, just drilling some pilot holes, and just gonna end up using some little wood screws that I have here.
So now that I have that taken care of, it slides pretty well. I'm gonna put some wax on the bottom of that. It'll slide a lot better. But it's straight and it's in there pretty good. Doesn't really move around. I guess when you get a little bit this far out, but ideally the blade's gonna be cutting around right here after I have the fence, so it's not gonna be, really move that much. Has a little bit of play, but I think that'll be fine for the amount of time. Like I said, I'm saving up for a better table saw, so this fence is probably just going to go through a couple projects. It was really more of just a learning exercise. I did cut this down, as you can see. This was oak, and apparently it splits pretty well. I know my blade is super sharp, so I probably just didn't cut it right. But so I'll sand that off, mount this, but I'm not going to mount it yet, and just, glue it down and all, because I'm gonna raise the blade. I'll put some weight on here, on these sides, raise the blade, and then I'm gonna square the blade up exactly square with this fence. And that's how I'm gonna do it. I'm not gonna try the 5-cut method. Never tried it before. Maybe I'll try that on my future one, but for now, I think this will be fine. And I think I'll be able to get it pretty straight by just pulling it up and getting a perfect square, and then really locking it in that way. So let's give it a shot.
Just sanding off the rough edges of the fence, and put a little weight on here, raise the blade, get the cut through, and then just testing out my fence, but I will secure it later. I set the blade just high enough for the T-track to fit in, and just kept making short passes until it fit perfectly. So after I got it screwed down, I wanted to try and square it up, so I just put one screw from the underneath in one side and just clamped down one side until it felt like it was pretty straight against the thing. And then went ahead and just put in the other screws, and that was it. Oh, and for the screws on the bottom, I did drill a pilot hole just to make sure that they would set in well enough to be able to slide across the top of the table saw with no issues. So now I'm just measuring the straightness of the cut, and it is pretty square, so good enough for me for the projects that I'm doing for right now. All right, I got it mostly finished. I put a little block on the back just to stop the blade from coming through, or at least being able to tell when it comes through. Put a little piece right there, again, just to hold it together whenever it goes all the way through. And that's about it. I'm waiting on for my cat's Moses stop. And again, this sled is just going to be temporary. This saw is not that great, but for now, it'll allow me to make some cross cuts, which I desperately need. Now that I got my stop block in, got it installed, wanted to make a couple cuts, just test it out, and it worked really well. So this is about as done as it's gonna get for me. This is just a test one. Learned a lot, but got my stop block in over the weekend. Works really well. You can make these micro adjustments and all. You can look it up for cat's Moses stop block. Look at all the features, but I'm still got to mess around with it because I just got it. But it does cut perfectly even, and that was the main thing because I got a lot of stuff to cut. And I'll definitely rebuild this and improve it whenever I get my new table saw. But for now, this is good enough, and it was a good project. It was a good learning lesson. So hope you've enjoyed it.